What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And has your Audi TT turned into a mini swamp with foggy windows, damp carpets and a horrible smell in the car? If so, then stick around, because today we're going to go through the car and we're going to figure out why those issues are occurring and how to fix them. So one big issue these Audi TTs have is all the drainage holes around the car, they get blocked and full of dirt, soil. It then allows water to build up, and then the water either gets into the car or it just sits there and stays stagnant, and that probably causes your smell. So first thing we'll do is pop the bonnet and we'll check the scuttle panel. So this piece here is what's referred to as your scuttle panel, and to remove that there's literally a bolt there, a bolt there. This side's just on pins by the looks of things, that just lifts up, and then it sticks into the windscreen across the top. So when you take this off, be careful not to pull it too hard because you'll snap the lip that goes in the screen. You also need to pull these caps out of your window wipers, there and there. And then below there, I think there's two 13mm nuts, I'm not too sure on that. But there's two nuts, get them off, pull your wipers out, you can get your scuttle panel off, and then behind that you can access the drains that help the water come down from the windscreen and go out to underneath the car. Well, it's supposed to. So removing the scuttle panel is a very simple process. Just use a flathead screwdriver to pop the two plastic caps off the window wipers, then get a 13mm socket in and take the two nuts off the wiper arms. Next you'll need to try and leverage the wipers off. Yours may be a bit stiffer than mine because I've had mine off recently to get the windscreen changed, but it will come eventually. Just give them a wiggle and don't be too harsh in case you might snap the stalk the wiper sits on. After the wiper's done, it's then the two Torx bolts on the side. Simply remove them, pull the rubber seal forward towards you. Now the last thing you need to do is pull the plastic away from the windscreen, and to do that start from one side and work your way across, but be sure not to pull too hard in case you snap that lip. Once you get a corner up, get your finger under it and gently work your way across the windscreen until all of that plastic lip is out. And that is your scuttle panel trim removed. So now your scuttle panel is removed and you can access the drainage holes underneath, which are, so your drainage holes, when you're looking at the front of your car, you've got one on the left, just down there, you see that plastic oval, that, believe it or not, is a drain, and it looks like mine is already blocked. And then on this side, again, exactly the same, another drain hole there, and they get full of leaves, dirt, bits that fall off trees if you park under them, and they just get blocked up to the point where they can't really drain the water as they should. So I'll get the torch down, I'll show you if mine are blocked, because this is the first time I'm checking mine, and chances are they probably are. So let's see. See, you can already see it's looking pretty blocked up to me, which kind of explains why I had loads of water coming into my car. And the opposite side, no doubt, will be the same. And again, leaves and stuff in there, so let's get them cleared. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the hoover on it and try and suck out as much of the crap that's in there as I can and see if that does anything. So I've emptied the hoover to see if anything actually comes out. We'll get the nozzle on that drain and we'll see if we can pull anything out of it. We're probably also going to have to do a few other things to try and free the drain up, but it's a start. If you're liking this video so far, why don't you go hit the subscribe button down below, because it's free and it really helps the channel out, and you'll see all the other content I post on the Audi TT. Let's open the hoover up and see if it did anything. So there's a little bit in there, it did get a little bit out, but not much. So I think the next thing we're going to have to do is probably remove that drain, find out where it goes to, pull it out, and then when it's out we can clean it fully. Put it back in, because it should just be a push fit rubber gasket type seal. All I'm going to do here to remove the seal is get some needle nose pliers, get them in on the edge of the seal, and literally just pull it out. So we've just pulled that drain out and mine is 100% blocked. Look at this. As you can see, it's full of crap. No water's draining out of that, so chances are yours is going to be the same, and it'll be the same on the opposite side. So we'll literally just get a screwdriver in, some form of pick tool, and clean that drainage hole out. And it's already falling up there. Then we can get it back in the car, we'll do the other side, and then we'll move on to the other drainage holes in this car that get blocked up. So we've cleaned the rubber drain, but as you can see down there, it's just an empty cavity that goes straight down to the arch lining. So I think the water just runs down that and runs out the bottom of the car. So let's do the other side. And that one's actually not that bad. So to get these drains back in, you literally just get them back into the recesses, like so. And then you just press down the edges and you'll feel it pop into place because it is just a rubber seal. So now they're back in, we'll get the scuttle panel and the wiper blades back on, exactly the reverse of how you took them off. Then we'll move on to the door drains, and then from there we'll then move on to the electric spoiler drains because they get blocked up as well. So let's get it all back on. And just like that, your scuttle panel's back together and your drains aren't blocked on the front anymore. So now we move on to the doors. So your door drains on the TT, as you guess, are on the doors. But if you open your door and look at the very bottom of the door, you'll see there are multiple drains. So on the front of the door, there's that one. Then underneath, there's that one, which I think something is blocked in. Yeah, that's not good. That one, just there, which is another hole. Then there's one there, again, another hole. And then there's one up there, which has got a little rubber grommet in. I think I've just pushed that in. But like I'm about to show you now, all you need to do on the rubber grommet ones is pull them down, and then you can take them out and then put them back in if the drains are clean. This one's alright, but that hole there isn't. It feels like there's something in there. And there's also one right there, which is only small, but I think that's like a last resort type drain further down the door. So with one of my drains feeling like there's something in it that's blocking it, I'm gonna have to take the door card off to see what it is and pull it back out. So it's a relatively simple process. I'll show you how to do it. It's just push pins, 2 screws, a few connectors and a door cable. So it's not that bad. So because my drainage hole does feel blocked, you'll need 3 things to get the door card off, if that. A plastic pry tool or something soft you can get under the door. You can use a screwdriver, just watch your paint and don't dent the door. And then you'll also need a T25 Torx bit on the end of a long extension, because there's a bolt down there, and behind this plastic speaker trim there's a bolt in the top left corner that you need to get out as well. So you take them bolts out, disconnect the connectors, pull all the pins, lift the card off, and that's all you need to do. It's very simple. Then these speaker trim plastics are very delicate, so when you are taking it out, don't pry it too much. If it doesn't feel like it's going, reevaluate and see if you can get it from another side, because that will snap and it's in your line of sight in the car. So if it is snapped, it doesn't look great. Just get in behind it, down the side, gently prise it forwards. And as you can see, someone's already had that off because there's a big chunk missing because that connector at the bottom is snapped. But up here on the top left corner, closer to the handle, there's a bolt right at the back you've got to get out. And when you get that out, you can do all the snap pins, pull it forward, and the door card is pretty much off. There's bolt number 2. So now that them bolts are out, you're going to want to get your pry tool down the edges. I think this door card's been off before because that's been snapped. And as you can see, there's a bit of a gap. I can almost get my fingers under that. So whoever's put it back on has probably snapped the pins behind and not replaced them. So usually you'd use this, get it in the edge, lever it forward until you can get your fingers under, and then gently pull towards you. But I think I can just get my fingers under. Like that. And just work your way around until it's all off. And when you get to this point, you've got it, there's a lip on the top that hooks onto the door, so you've got to lift it up. And then the door card comes forward. Then once your door cards come forward, this clip here for the lock, you've got to prise it back there, pull it towards you. It comes around and unhooks from that little lever. Then this connector here is the only connector from the car to the door. So it's this little pink tab, you pull it, and then when it comes up, the connector slides out. And that is your door card removed from the car. So now that your door card's off, to get behind into the door where the blockage will be if you've got one, you've got to prise this seal forwards. Again, it's on clips and it is quite stiff, but you can get it off. And as it comes forward, you'll see on the back there is a seal that goes around the edge against the door to stop all the moisture coming in. So you move that over, just have it hanging down, and then you can, if your head's not massive like mine, then you could probably get it in and have a little look to see what's down there. And if you don't want to stick your head in the door, fair enough. You can take the speaker off, get behind the speaker, and there's your drain hole, so you'll be able to see what's there and what's blocking it, if anything. Also, I've just realised, someone has been in the store before and they probably tried to fix this leaking issue, because all around this, and all around the speaker has been tiger sealed, which is a polyurethane sealant. So someone's obviously tried to fix this problem before, and I think they've done an okay job because my passenger carpet's not wet, but that drain hole is blocked. That's the only reason I took the door card off. But I want to know why. So that's going to be a pain. So I'm admitting defeat with the speaker because there's like weird square nuts on the back. I can't grip them, I can't get it off, but what you can do is you can get your arm in, you can feel for the holes, and you'll be able to feel if there's stuff down there. So if I get my arm right down the back, try and feel for that hole. There it is. Let's see what this is. That bit of plastic was blocking my drain hole, so there's one piece out. So there's one bolt out. And again, another piece of plastic. And there's the spare window clamp bracket. So, minus this bracket and this bolt, which shouldn't have been in there in the first place, that drain hole was actually okay. It was only because of these I took the door card off to check. But if your drain hole is full of dirt, debris, broken glass off a changed window or anything like that, get your hand in, pull it out. If you can get the speaker off, fair play to you, because I couldn't. I can't get my hand in with something to grip the nuts on the back. But if you can get that off, it'll make your job a little bit easier. But that drain hole's clean. That drain hole's clean. Everything in there's all right. So my drainage in my door will work as it should. So now we need to get the door card on, which is exactly the same as taking it off, just in reverse. This just presses back in, clicks. Snap, snap, snap. So Audi's trim clips are a bit of a weird one because you've got to reset them before you put them back on for them to snap in again. Because if you just try and push your door card on now as is, it won't click in and it won't stay in. But to reset these pins, as you can see, there is the top shoulder, the shoulder just down the middle, and there's the lower disc. What you need to do is a pair of pliers, something that isn't too sharp, get it in like that. As you can see there, it's just above the second ring. So when you press it in, it just bridges the gap between the second ring and the top. And then what I do is, as it is now, I get a flathead screwdriver under the edge, give it a bit of a twist, bit of a prise upwards, and there you go. So now you can see on the clip, it's reset. So what that means is this just come all the way down. So as you push that in and that this moves forward, these edges will splay open and they'll bite to the inside of the door. I know the camera quality is not great, but looking at your clip, you should be able to figure out what I mean by what I've just said. And apologies if you can't. So now that we've reset the clips on the door card, offer it up to the car, get your handle cable back on, just goes on the reverse if I took it off. Get your grey connector back on, again, just goes on the way in reverse as to how we took it off. And then hook your door card over the top. Now it's hanging. Just have a little glance down the edges. Make sure your clips line up. And once you know your clips are lining up, give it a little tap. So that's on. Now the last thing we need to do is get the bolt in the bottom there, bolt in the top left corner there, get this plastic trim back on, get your door card on, your drain hole's cleaned, and hopefully the water, when it comes down your window, will go back up the car and not inside the car. So I'd just like to reiterate, the removal of your door card is not necessary. The only reason I removed mine is because I could feel something physically blocking that hole, which ended up being a window clamp and bracket and bolt. But you don't need to take the card off unless that is blocked up and you can't clear it from the outside. So now we've done the scuttle panel drains, both sides. We've done both door drains on both sides. It's now time to tackle the rear spoiler drains. And we're also going to remove and reseal the rear brake light, the third light on the top, because that can leak, let water into the car. And then even if you've sealed up the spoiler, unblock your drain and stuff, that light will still allow water to get into the boot, causing the foggy, damp, horrible smell. So we'll do that while we're here as well. So first thing you're going to do is put your keys in the ignition and turn it to on, but don't start the car. Press and hold your spoiler button until your spoiler comes up, and then you can go round to the back, and there, if you can make it out, they're your two spoiler drains. Those two drains can become blocked with leaves, dirt, debris, soil, like everything else on the car, so we'll remove them from the inside, and we'll take the spoiler off, take the third light off, reseal it all, clear the drains, and that should be your water issue in the boot completely sorted. So we'll get the boot open, and the first thing we want to do is this cap here. Just grab it, pull, oh, get the boot against something, grab it, pull, and that comes off. It exposes the lock. And then on the inside of the boot, in the handle, you can see there's two bolts, one in either corner. Get them out. You also might as well take your parcel shelf off just to make it easier. So now that those Torx bolts are out, those ones in the handle there in the top two corners, we literally just need to grab the boot plastics, probably from the handle, and pull it down, straight down towards the floor of the car, and that will then pop the plastics out. But once you get one side out, just pop your eyes in to see where the other clips are, so you know where to apply the leverage, so you don't put leverage on a part that isn't necessarily by a clip and possibly snap it. Like the door cards, a bit of gentle persuasion, but you need to be a bit firm with it as well, if that makes any sense. And then once it's come off, get it down around the edges and it'll come down. When it comes down, you'll have a clip here, which I think is your manual boot release. Just push that out, then you'll see the oval comes out. Give it a twist sideways, push it back through that gap, and you can drop the plastic down and leave the boot release hanging. And if, like me, you have any of those clips still hanging in the hole, just get some needle nose pliers on them, pull them down, and then put them into the slots on the plastic. Those ones there, they'll slide in the side like that. That's how the clips are supposed to go back in. So now that your plastic trim's off, you're greeted with this. So that is your rear spoiler electrics. Then you've got one drain on the side here, one drain on the other side here, your radio antenna, and the bolts here for the rear spoiler, the rear lights, and all of them need to come off. But first thing we'll do is we'll pull these drains off on either side. Make sure they're not blocked, because they go there. Just a little rubber grommet, and again on the other side, a little rubber grommet. So we'll pull the tabs on the top, pull that out, pull it through the inside, because you can get to it, take it off, make sure it's clean. And removing these drains is actually quite simple, so I don't know if you can see, if the camera will let me focus. But on the edges here, there's little plastic tabs on both sides. You just press those tabs inwards and then push the drain through, and it'll come out. On the opposite side, it'll come this way, and then these grommets here, just get your finger on the edge and push it in. That's a bit rusty, so you can see water's been building up in the boot. But if you pull it in, it'll come out on the inside, and then you can unclip it from that side there. So once your seal's been taken out, it's been cleaned, and you're ready to stick it back in, all you need to do is make sure the grommet is around the plastic on this here, and then when you get it in, you literally just get it in, push it till it clicks, so that's in there nice and tight. Then this little line here, you feed through, push it through here, it'll hang out like so, and then just gently press it in until you feel it pop, and that drain is back in where it was. Your drains are back in, they're clean and they're free of debris. The next thing we need to do is take the spoiler off and the third brake light to reseal them, put them back on to make sure no water's getting in this boot at all. And to do that, you need to take off these bolts. So for your third brake light, there's your lock. If you look on either side, there's a plastic bolt cover there, plastic bolt cover thingy there, and then if you look just in the top right there is electrical connector, so you need to take that off as well, otherwise you won't get it out. So there's also a clip in the middle of this light, and I've only just realised, but if say you're there, there's your lock, there's your motor. If you get right above that motor where my finger is there, so that there is a gap. If you get a screwdriver in there, you can press the tab in on the clip, and you can pull the brake light towards you and pull it out. Because unless you get the tab in on that clip, that light won't come out, and you might snap it trying to pull it off, so don't rag it. Press the pin on the clip and you should be able to pull it out, but make sure you bolt it out first. Might I reiterate, I've never done this before, so I'm slowly figuring it out as we go along. So apologies if the video is a bit choppy. But get the screwdriver in, you'll see the tab. Press it in like so, slowly leverage it up. It helps if you've got like a pry tool or something to get on the other side of it, to press upwards. There we go. So now, because I've depressed that clip and pulled up, slowly getting the brake light out, and there's that little connector. There's just a little tab on the end. Press it in, pull it towards you, and that's your third brake light removed. So like I was saying there, you've got one bolt, two bolts, they're your plastic ones, and this pin is what's in the middle. So when you get into the hole in the car, you'll see that. So you press that in with a screwdriver or something like that, and it allows you to then pop that out the middle. I think it must just be a retaining clip should any of these snap. And there is your connector which goes on that side like that. So we'll clean all this off, we'll get all that off the boot, and we can refit the brake light with some fresh silicone seal. One thing I might do as well actually is remove the spoiler now while that brake light's off, because it gives me a bit more access and it seems like it'll be a lot easier, so we'll go do that first. So to remove the spoiler, there's a couple nuts you need to take off. There's one there, there's one behind that grommet, believe it or not. There's one there, going across, one there, one there, one up there behind the loom, one on the opposite side, again behind the loom, and on the opposite side again, there's that nut there, that one in the corner, and this one's quite a sneaky one behind the aerial, there's that one there, so we need to take that off as well. So you probably have to unbolt the aerial first to get to that, but there shouldn't be a big issue. So we'll get to unbolting, and then we'll get the spoiler off. Oh, and one thing we also need to do is disconnect the electrical connector for the spoiler, which is this one here. So just behind your lock, you'll have this connector here. You just press those fingers in on the side, top and bottom. If I can get my hand in. Top and bottom, and then pull it towards you, and that's the rear spoiler disconnected. You shouldn't have to disconnect the aerial because you're only removing those two bolts to drop that bracket. So we'll get all that unbolted, and we'll get the spoiler off. So all the nuts on this are 10mm, that's the same for the aerial bracket. So all you need is a ratchet, an extension, a 10mm socket, and you can get straight stuck in. One thing I will say as well is when this comes off, the drains will come with it. Probably should have done this afterwards, but just push your rubbers through on both sides. Then that means when you lift the spoiler out, the drains will come with it and you won't pull out of the grommets there because it's a bit of a pain to get back on. So let's get this unbolted. Another thing I'd like to add is be careful not to drop the nuts into the boot because it'll be a pain to get them back out. Also, I just realised the two very side nuts are different. They have what looks like a little cup on the top, so when you're putting them all on, those nuts with the little cup need to go on the very edges, and all the rest are just washers on the nuts, captive washers. But those cup ones need to go on the sides because that's how we took them off, because there's a bit of a shoulder on the stud, and you'll see what I mean when you do it yourself, if you do it. Hopefully you don't have to, but it'll help. So to get that rubber grommet off here, just get a screwdriver underneath, pull it towards you, and it just pops out. So with the radio antenna, one thing I would recommend is take one nut off completely, furthest to the car, and then this nut on the back, just loosen it off so you can sway that out the side to give you access to the hole as opposed to having to take it off, because you don't need to take it off, you just need to move it out the way. So take the front nut off, loosen the back nut, push it to one side, and you'll get your socket in that hole to get the other nut off. And that looks like all the spoiler bolts, nuts are out, so we can lower the boot down and pull the spoiler off. Spoiler. Also, if you want to lower the boot down, just make sure your keys aren't in the boot, because if it locks, you've got no chance of getting them back out. It's a very common problem on the Audi TTs. So keep your keys in your pocket or put them to one side. So now, you don't really want to grab it here and pull up. You want to get under this black seal here And like I said earlier on, it's best if you've got some form of a pry tool. You can do it providing it feels a bit loose, but don't pull on it because you might snap the spoiler. So just slowly come up with it, very gently. And I can actually see where some water's been getting in under this. So as you pull up, twist it outwards, and that is your spoiler off. And I'll show you the seal, or what isn't there as a seal. So now that the spoiler's off, I can see evidential marks that water has been getting in through that spoiler. So this is 100% a must for this car, and most probably your TT as well, if you're suffering with water issues in your boot. So look at this. So I hope the camera can pick it up, but that there is water, that there is water, and all down the edges is wet, meaning the water's been getting in that corner, and probably over there as well. And then while it's here, we'll give all this moss and horrible dirt a good clean. So when we get the silicone seal on, it'll have something good to stick to, and it'll be a nice seal to stop the car from filling up with water. So put something soft down so you don't damage the paint on your spoiler, but around the spoiler you'll see there's a foam seal. This one has clearly failed, so I'm going to remove this seal entirely and run a thick bead of sealant down the edge, so when I stick it back on, the sealant spreads out and it gives that a nice seal to the car and prevents water coming in. And to take that seal off, all I'm going to do is get a flathead screwdriver, relatively thin, get it in the groove, just run it around the edges to remove the seal from the spoiler. Give that recess a bit of a clean, and then you're ready to run your new bead of sealant on and get that spoiler back on the car. One thing I've done to make it a bit easier is I've removed the drains again. You know how to do that because you've already done it. So now I'm just going to use a bead of black silicone, go around the edge on here. There's a nice little recess which is a bit of a guide. And we can get this back on the car, bolt it down, and hopefully that will stop the water coming in. Now for the brake light, and I'll try and use this, but I might need more silicone. So now that the rear spoiler is being sealed, we can get it up back on the car, press it firm, bolt it up, and that'll be that sealed. And then we'll do the exact same with the rear brake light. Bit of silicone around the edges, and we'll stick it back on. So now we have a nice smooth finish around the edges. Well, now open the boot, bolt it up. Bolting up will probably give you a bit more expulsion, so you just go around again after the fact and wipe it up, and then we'll get the tyre light on. That's the boot sealed. If you've made it this far into the video and you haven't clicked subscribe, go click the subscribe button down below, because we're building the channel up and it'll really help us out. Now we need to get the connector back in for the spoiler, otherwise that won't work. It only goes in one way. Push it home until it clicks. And then last but not least, we need to get the rubber grommet in this hole here, where we took it out before. Just like the drain holes, just push it until it clicks. And then get the radio bracket back up, bolted tight. And that is the spoiler back on. Now the very last thing we need to do is get that rear brake light on, and we're done. Well, other than the inside plastics, but I'll show you how to do that as well. So now that the spoiler's on, we'll get the rear brake light on, and you want it to look like this before it goes on. Something like that. You want the sealant to sit higher than the edge of the brake light. The good thing is you won't see any of this, that's why it's a mess and I'm not that bothered. But plug the connector in, flip it round, press it until that pin clicks, get the 2 bolts on the underside, and we're good to go. That's everything back on from the outside of the car, so I'll get the boot down. You've got to make sure the boot's closed to test the spoiler, because I found out before the spoiler won't move if it knows the boot isn't latched in. So you've got to latch the boot in. I'll test the brake light, test the spoiler, and if it all works, we can get the plastics back on, and that is this job done. Key ignition and turn it on. That's on. So the brake light, that comes on. That's a very good start. And the spoiler goes down. Sits nice and flush as it should. So that tells me everything's all good and we've done it right. So now that we know everything works, we can get the boot open again and we can get the rear trim plastics back on, and that is the boot job done. The first thing we'll do is fish this manual release back through the hole. And after that, there's 2 little tabs in the corners that slot into the side pieces there and there. We'll get them up against that. then once they're in and the pins are lined up, you'll see, you just give it a bit of a tap. And we'll get the manual release lock back in. Get your 2 Torx bolts back in the handle. Get the lock cover back on. Make sure that the slope's facing downwards. Just get it in, press it up till it clicks. And that is your boot trim put back on, the boot back together, your drain hole sealed, your spoiler sealed, and we can close this, wait for it to rain, and hopefully it works. So finally, we've got the scuttle panel drains cleared and they're okay on both sides. The door drains cleared and they're okay on both sides. And now the boot drains cleared and okay on both sides. And we've sealed the spoiler and the rear brake lights. One thing I would recommend is if your carpets are wet, you will have to remove them, hang them up to dry and let them dry naturally over the course of a few days. If you try and heat them up, they'll probably shrink and then they won't fit. But you'll also need to do that if you have got wet carpets to stop the fogging of your windows and the horrible smell. So now we've just got to wait for it to rain, which in the UK definitely won't be long. And then we'll know for certain if clearing the drains, resealing the spoiler and the third brake light has done anything to stop the water ingress into this car. And hopefully it'll help the smell and stop me windows from fogging up. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found value in this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so you get an update every time I post me fixing a problem on this TT, because there's still a lot to do. And I'll see you in the next one.